Good morning. Here we are once again, and it's the news from last week with your good buddy Spider, and you're sipping coffee with me on Sippin Coffee with Spider. Let me have some right now, actually, while I'm at it. Ah, goodness. It's a day. It's been a week. It's been a week, and it's only, I don't know what day it is. Anyway, it's already been a week, and it's probably only like Monday or something. So, what do we have going on? We have the news. And what is the news? Newsweek, what X-ray scans of the alien bodies in Mexico reveal. Let's take a peek. I'm a little curious. The article says two small non-human quote-unquote bodies displayed with the Mexican Congress last week have been subjected to a CT scan and X-rays in a bid to determine their origin and confirm whether they are aliens or not part of our terrestrial evolution, as the UFO expert who has them presented them said. He says that they were discovered in Peruvian mines around 1,000 years old based on carbon analysis. And each body is roughly the size of a newborn human baby. Let's see. Where are the results? Where is it? They don't have the results. I guess they don't have the results yet, so I guess we don't know. But so far, the consensus is that they are fake. We'll see. We'll see. We'll keep an eye on it. There's a few articles about this. I'm just going to talk generally about it rather than pull up something specific. Apparently, there was a big leak of data from Bethesda recently, and part of that leak was their upcoming games schedule. And there's remasters of almost their entire back catalog, namely with Oblivion, Fallout 3, a few other things, and it's super interesting to see. Dishonored, I believe. There's a Dishonored 3 coming out at some point. There's a whole bunch of things. Not all of them have like a scheduled set date, but they're all in various stages of being worked on. And it's impressive. It's one of the first times that we've seen like so many things going on with them all at once. They usually try to keep all that stuff really heavily under wraps, but people are pretty determined. So it's interesting. It's interesting. I'll be keeping an eye on it because I like a lot of their older games. Their newer games have never been quite as good as their older games, but I'm in it to win it. I'd like to see some of those older games. I'd like to see Morrowind get overhauled with the Skyrim engine. To be honest, if I had my choice, but I doubt that's ever going to happen. Modders have done so, but I don't use PC. I use my console. So far, those mods are too big for console. It's not that the console can't handle it. It's that the data storage isn't available. You need massive amounts of data storage, and the built-in memory storage for the consoles is not the same. So that's unfortunate. Dakota News now with some news. I don't know if that's what you want to call it. Man breaks Guinness World Record for largest collection of nativity sets. Now, the nativity sets, those are, of course, those Christmas displays that you get to have the baby Christ and the shepherds and the animals and things in a manger, and you set it out on Christmas. It's like little figurines and things. and sometimes churches have them like big life-size versions outside during the season. And yeah, how many does this guy have? I want to find out here. We're gonna pull it up. Dakota News now. 2,539 scenes. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of Jesus. There's a lot of baby Jesus, let me tell you. And I'm not saying that in a way trying to be, you know, I don't want to say blasphemous because I don't really care too much about that, but I don't want to be purposely offensive. But that is a lot of baby Jesus. 2,539. Oh my gosh. That's a lot of time on your hands. A lot of time on your hands. Here we go. Phys.org, phys.org. New study disproves Leonardo da Vinci's rule of trees. Now, I don't know what the rule of trees is, so let's find out what that means. A rule of trees developed by Leonardo da Vinci to describe how to draw trees has been largely adopted by science for modeling trees and how they function. Now, scientists at Bangor University in the UK and the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences have discovered that this rule contradicts those that regulate the internal structures of trees. Da Vinci's interest in drawing led him to look at size ratios of different objects, including trees, so that he could create more accurate representations of them. To correctly represent trees, he perceived a so-called rule of trees, which states that all the branches of a tree at every stage of its height are equal in thickness to the trunk when put together. Interesting. It had been thought that Leonardo's rule of trees could also be applied to the vascular channels which transport water through a tree, with the individual channel sizes decreasing at the same ratio as branches become narrower, while still adding up to the trunk's volume. This rule had been accepted as part of metabolic scaling theory. But scientists have shown that this model isn't exactly correct when applied to the internal vascular structure of trees. The study has been published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, if you want to know more. It's interesting. It's not, knowledge that you're probably going to use most of the time, but that's the best kind. The best kind of knowledge is the knowledge that's really just makes you feel smarter. That you might not ever actually use for something, but it's good to know. It's just great stuff. CBS News video shows NASA spacecraft flying through one of the most powerful sun explosions ever recorded. Wow. Which spacecraft was this? The Parker Solar Probe flew through the coronal mass ejection on September 5th, 2022. Videos taken by cameras on the probe show it rushing through the eruption, and it seems to have survived. So if you want to watch that and read up on that, go to CBS News. WWG with some poor gaming news, as this tends to happen a lot with games of this kind. Evil Dead the game ending. New content. Nintendo Switch version canceled. Only the barest support to continue from here on out. And that's the thing with games like this. That's the thing with games that are meant to be always online and have servers that need to be upkept and that are supposed to be games that constantly refresh and things to keep it interesting rather than just a cut and dry start to finish game. They try to be a continuing. It's like a lot of MMOs, massive multiplayer online games are like this, and it's very unfortunate because by now getting into them that eventually they're going to be at the end of their life, and rather than being able to completely keep playing them after they've done being supported, you know eventually the servers are going to shut down, and that's how you play the game. You don't play the game on your system. Your system is only a gateway to the servers which stream the game to you. And while they say that they have no plans to take the servers offline anytime soon, that the game will continue and all the base features you'll still be allowed to use, how do you know? Server bandwidth is expensive. The more games you have supported on it for players, the more you're paying. And if you have a game that's not making any more money, you're not adding anything new for people to buy, you're not, selling any more copies because it's been out, then what do? Eventually you shut it down, and then nobody gets to play it ever again. The game is gone. It doesn't matter if you have install files on your system or not. You can't connect to servers, you can't play the game. And I hate that. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. It's one of the many reasons why I'm a single player, campaign driven kind of gamer. I don't like these live service games. Destiny pulled all kinds of tricks like this all the time, and they justified all sorts of bad business decisions by saying that, well, when you pay for the game, you're just paying for a license to play the game. You're not actually paying for the game itself. The game is ours, and you're paying us to be able to play it from us, so we can do whatever we want with it. And it's so arrogant. It's so arrogant, and it just makes me angry. I get real steamed about it. So I don't generally play those kind of games anymore. I played a few when they were brand new and stuff like that, but I don't play them most of the time anymore because I won't. A little bit of sniffles still, but doing good. ABC News. President Biden offers support for Ukraine, stresses global unity in United Nations speech. Of course. It's one thing to support Ukraine, but it's another to keep sending billions and billions and billions of dollars to them for this conflict when the inflation here has not yet started to go down. They say it has, but I can't see it. Like, my bills are only going up. My bills are going up and up and up. And it's disheartening. It's disheartening. And if he really wants global unity, he will sit down and have a talk with Russia. Everybody can sit down and talk things out rather than sending more money to defend this country. Why don't we just sit around and have a defense of words and talk it out and come to a deal? It's not going to be for everybody's benefit anymore. You let that ship sail when things got out of control and the invasion started. Things could have been curtailed before that happened, but oh well. What do I know, right? I'm just some guy on the couch. Andy went on and on about climate change and how they all have to be more committed in things, despite the fact that most every country out there is all failing to hit the goals that they've set for themselves and for each other. Because most of the stuff that they've decided to set is unattainable at this point. It may be attainable in the future, but as of right now, it's not workable. So we should pivot to more immediate concerns. That's my plan. Speaking of a little side bit of that, according to ABC News, Speaker McCarthy plans to confront Zelensky when he visits Washington on Ukraine funding. He may have already visited because, again, this is last week's news, and I didn't. I look at the news a week late because if I look at it as it happens, I get steamed and I get this way. It's already passed, and I don't got to worry about it, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I just grunt about it, move on, and complain to you folks about it in the morning. Good luck with that, I suppose, McCarthy. You've got a lot on your plate right now. You've got that. You're dealing with this too little, too late Biden impeachment inquiry. It's way too late. The election's coming up next year. I mean, what are you going to do? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. Um, if he wins, you can try for next year, but what's the point? What is the point? And he's got people in his own party trying to take him down, trying to get him out. They're tired of his speakership. Yeah, he's getting surrounded. So let's see what happens. According to Rolling Stone, Danny Masterson's wife files for divorce. This is always a tricky thing because this is the guy from that '70s show. If anybody remembers that show, I didn't watch a lot of it. I saw a few episodes, but he got in trouble for doing some bad things with women and being abusive in certain ways, and so he's going to prison. And you have to wonder how much. You always have to wonder how much his close family might have known about stuff like that. When people do these kind of things, you always have to wonder how much was allowed and swept under the rug and kind of, just not talked about by family members. I mean, sometimes people get away with this stuff and you have no idea. And that's fine. I mean, that happens. So maybe she legitimately had no idea. Or maybe she did. And maybe she tacitly just kind of was like, whatever. But now that it's a big deal, now she wants a divorce so she doesn't get attached to his sentencing as far as her reputation goes. I don't know. I don't want to say bad things about her because I don't know her. I don't have any sort of axe to grind because I have no idea who she is. I've never heard of her. I don't look into celebrities' lives as a policy. I'm not like, oh, what did so and so do this week? Oh my goodness. I'm not into tabloid stuff. So, but I don't know. It's just a question I have sometimes. And if she legitimately didn't know, she legit didn't know. You know what? I'm not going to say anything about that. Whatever. Let's see here. Reuters going to be paywalled, so I can't actually paywalled, so I can't look beyond the headline. But China says Britain's plan to disrupt Hong Kong doomed to fail. See, this is where the Western countries are trying to hit China where it hurts. They're trying to hit them on their various territories, like Hong Kong, Taiwan, even though Taiwan is not, they say they're not part of China. So, Thailand and a few other places that China has their hooks into. And so they're trying to hit them on these territories to diminish influence, and China's not having it. And they're just like, no, we claim this. Whether the people there feel like they've been claimed or not is somebody else's business. But, China's kind of like flexing the muscles. It's more of this back and forth, the same kind of thing that we got in trouble with Russia that led to Russia storming into Ukraine. It's the same thing. We're doing the same stuff, trying to use these other countries as a buffer to get back at people who've made us angry for whatever reason. And it's a bad policy. It is a bad policy. ABC News, Germany bans neo-Nazi group with links to U.S., conducts raids in 10 German states. Whew, now this is crazy stuff. Because there's a lot of people here in the United States. I don't want to say a lot like they're everywhere and whatever, but there's a sizable amount who believe that they're Nazis here in the U.S. They're like, oh yeah, we espouse Hitler and we espouse this and blah blah, and we do the salute and wear the swastika and tattoo it on ourselves. And they're not real Nazis. They may be, they may be fascists of a sort, and they may be racial purists and things like that, but they are not themselves Nazis, because Nazis was a specific German political party. And while the ideology might have been adopted in other places, you can't truly be a Nazi if you weren't a German person, really. And it's interesting now because this having neo-Nazi groups in Germany who are actually German people, that's troubling, because that means there's a sizable amount of people there who are still tied to that movement, which means it never quite went away. And that's troubling, because that means it's just sitting there under the surface, and you can keep arresting and you can keep raiding and you can do this stuff, but it's doubtful that you're going to be able to really root it out at this point. If it's been there going on since the end of World War II, that's trouble. That is some trouble. I don't know what kind of trouble yet, but it's trouble. ABC News, Hunter Biden expects to plead not guilty on felony gun charges per court of filing. Of course. Why wouldn't he? Why wouldn't he? He tried to do a plea deal. Prosecutors and things, they all had it worked out, and the judge was like, no, there's something fishy about this. The details don't quite match up. Can we refine it a little bit? And they would try to go back, and he said, no, it doesn't work for me. No, it still doesn't work for me. I'm throwing it out. And so, what's the next step? He's not going to be like, oh, I'm obviously guilty, so I'm going to plead guilty. No, he's not going to do that. That'd be silly. So what's he going to do? He's going to plead not guilty, of course. Just like everybody does. I mean, that's what you do. If you're innocent until proven guilty, you have to be proven guilty, right? Even if you're flat out, even if the evidence is like 100% against you, and everybody knows you've done it, and I'm not saying that's the case here, I'm just saying, for example, you plead not guilty if you want it to go to trial, if you want any chance to get out of it. That's how it goes. And then that goes on the record that you pleaded not guilty and you believed you weren't guilty. And even if you're convicted after that, it still shows that you said you weren't guilty and you took a stand on it. A lot of times it doesn't matter for much, but it can in appeals and things of that nature. So, yeah, of course. Reuters, breaking views is an opinion piece. It's an opinion article that they have on Reuters. And of course, it's, the whole thing's paywalled, so I can't tell you what their opinion is. But the tagline, Bernie Sanders' push for 4-day weeks has merit. I don't know. I think if you lower the work weeks by the days, the hours are going to increase individually. You're going to go from 8-hour work weeks to 12-hour work days. 8-hour work days, 12-hour work days. Something like that. It's all going to work out still, and people are going to end up working the same amount. They think they're going to get an extra day off. And you will, of a sort, but the time is going to be the same. It's a bait and switch. It's a bait and switch. I mean, the alternative is what the auto workers who are striking are asking for. They want to have 32-hour work weeks but get paid for 40. And that's what people think is going to happen anytime somebody says, oh, yeah, we're going to lower the work week from 5 days to 4 days. They think they're going to get paid the same. Well, only if you work the same. You're not just automatically going to get that same 5-day paycheck. That's how it is. Another one from Reuters, paywalled. Britain to continue trade talks with India despite murder of Sikh leader in Canada. Oh, man, this is getting messy. I don't know why everybody's so reliant on India. This is just one of the many, many things that the Modi government in India is guilty of. It's a dictatorship. It is a dictatorship. They're flat out thugs in charge of India. But because they're making the rest of the world money, they're helping the rest of the world make money by offering their services and all this other stuff. It's overlooked constantly. It's like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia pours their money into everything, and they get away with everything. Like, nobody has still been punished for that, the murder, the assassination of that journalist by Saudi Arabia. Nobody's been punished. Nobody's going to be punished. Same thing is happening with India. It's all down to money. It's all down to money. And they treat their own citizens in India badly. Like, there was a region that was giving them problems politically, and so they cut off the internet to the entire region. Multiple towns and cities, and just like, no, cut it off. Because they didn't want to be embarrassed on the world stage because of protests and things like that, and nobody could get the word out. It's a dictator move. It's a dictator move. Russia does this kind of stuff, and people call Putin a dictator. So if he's a dictator, why isn't Modi? He is. Surprise, surprise. Modi is a terrible person, a terrible leader, and everybody just overlooks it because he's throwing money left and right. And he's bringing money into his country, so he's got a solid group of loyalists that are going to defend him every which way. And it's just crazy. It's just crazy. I get fired up about India. I get super fired up about it. Super fired up. Just like in China. We're tied up in manufacturing in China to the point where we can't just pull out. As much as they do all this stuff that nobody likes, we can't just pull out because we're tied together. The economic ties are chains. They're not just ties, they're chains. And they're dragging us down together into a sinkhole. China, India, Saudi Arabia, all these places, and they get away with everything. And they'll keep getting away with everything as long as we keep ourselves tied with this money flow. Bring the money back. Stop giving them money. Manufacture things here. Tell them to deal with their own selves and their own whatever they got going on. And then maybe we'll talk later. That's what I say. That's what I say. Not that anybody cares, because I'm just some guy. But anyway. Here's some good news for you if you're a Fortnite player, I guess. The Verge, you can now apply for a refund from Epic Games' Fortnite FTC settlement. Oh boy. I never played it, so I'm not eligible. But if you did and you want to get some cash back, there you go. You might as well, since so much money flowed into there for cosmetics and microtransactions. Oh well. Oh well. There's not much else going on. There's some things. But, those are the big ones. Another one from The Verge, somewhere in your dreams, probably in some people's nightmares, Microsoft's Phil Spencer says acquiring Nintendo would be a career moment. I don't think there's any chance of Microsoft or Sony well, actually, you know what? Okay. I don't think there's much chance of Microsoft acquiring Nintendo, because I think if Nintendo were ever going to let themselves be bought out by anybody, it'd be by Sony first. Because they're both Japanese companies. They both have a similar set of games. Not necessarily exactly, but as far as like Nintendo has a lineage of RPGs and platformers, and so does PlayStation. So if Microsoft were to get a hold of Nintendo, that would be like I'd be floored. I'd be absolutely floored. I would not expect it. I would definitely expect that more from PlayStation, from Sony, than I would from Microsoft. But who knows? I'll keep an eye on it. Maybe I'll be surprised. I would be very, very surprised. Extremely surprised. But that's it. That's your morning news from Sippin Coffee with Spider. I hope you got that breakfast ready, because I'm coming for it. I'm thinking eggs Benedict today. Okay? That's what I'm thinking. It was biscuits and gravy one other day, and today it's going to be with the hollandaise sauce and the eggs and the muffins, right? The English muffins and the Canadian bacon. Yeah, see, you're thinking about it now. Make it. I'm gonna come over. We're gonna have it together. Eggs Benedict, you and me, with the news. Okay? Put the coffee on the pot. I'm driving over now.